at this juncture, it's my great pleasure to introduce Richard Green. Richard Green, he's got a very funny accent. I'm not quite sure where he's from. But interesting, Richard, his introduction to Rotary was many, many years ago when he was part of the Youth Exchange program. And he came over from the UK into Orlando. And so he spent a year on the Youth Exchange program in Orlando, and then obviously went back to the UK. And here we are, turning the clock forward many years, and many wrinkles later, Richard. And he finds himself living in this part of the world, and he's just become president of the Sanibel Captiva Club. Richard's a great guy, and back in June, he called me and said, "I want to show you something." So I said, "Okay, great, let's have a look at it." And so we went on Zoom, just the two of us, and he shared this Zoom meeting template. And this was first shown to the rest of the district in our seminar back on the 1st of August. And there's been a lot of interest in it. Some clubs have already adopted it. And I wanted to get Richard to come on today to show those of you who haven't seen it, so you can get a flavor of what it is. And then also importantly, I want him to show you how to customize it for your club. So if you decide to use it, and he's very happy for you to use it, then obviously you can make the changes necessary to apply it to your club for your Zoom meetings. So over to Richard. Thank you, Richard, for coming out today and being willing to do this.
Of course, Daryl, no problem. It's always a pleasure. So let's start off by just kind of laying down a bit of foundation. So the whole purpose of this was to try and give some control over the meeting while making it interesting, while giving some some direction to the meeting. And also, although it took a lot of work to put together the first time round, it actually makes putting the meeting together each week actually very simple. So, a few precursors to it is, just having had Chris Wells, as I'm sure a lot of you have met and seen Chris before, we want these meetings to have some energy and keep our members excited and interested. So, to anything else? Well, with the exception of the beginning of the meeting, I click the Rotary logo and we have a bell to start the meeting. From there on, my meeting presentation, as I zoom in and out of each of the sections of our meeting, all I am doing is hitting the forward arrow, and we go through, and we then have a new section that we've just introduced, which is This Day in History. And within here, I have an extra zoom, which goes into a picture. My forward arrow brings us back out, we do a welcome to any of our visitors. It brings me back out from that section. It takes me to our weekly announcements. I actually drop out of the screen share at this stage so that we can see the people that are making the announcements, and we can, watch the actual members at this stage. And then we have, I take everybody off mute, and we have our shout out for anybody doing any do-goodery, stealing Chris Wells's terms, in our club for the week. I have introduced a President's Thanks a Million to one of our members each week. We do our birthdays, and we have a drum roll for birthdays. And then we have our anniversaries. We then run a Happy Bucks and raise some money. We move on to our speaker, and I now drop off of the screen and let them share their screen to give the presentation. We go to our 4-way test. We have a 5th way in our club, which is it fun? Ring the bell, and that's the end of the meeting. So that, in a nutshell, is what the meeting presentation, or our Rotary Club meeting, looks like each week now. And so what I wanted to do was to share some thoughts on this, share some behind the scenes, how do you edit this stuff? I have sent this out to a number of clubs. I know that it's being used in a number of different places. I've seen it out there. It does tend to, and this is why I wanted to do the training, it does tend to get torn apart and not necessarily put back together in the way that it's supposed to be used. So I wanted to share with you how you edit it. Everything on this presentation is all standard core PowerPoint, which I was really surprised that you were able to do all this. It is using a PowerPoint method, which confusingly is also called Zoom. So please ignore the fact that it's called Zoom. It's just a PowerPoint thing. So there's a few things around this screen that I would take note of initially first before we go any further. The first one is over on the left-hand side, I now leave my notice board fairly blank over on the left, upper left side of the screen, because that's where, as standard, the presenter's face is going to be, and it gets a bit awkward when you're trying to click on things that are behind the presenter's face when you're trying to run this thing. As I said, you can go from screen to screen to screen just by pressing the forward arrow. But equally, if you then wanted, if you got confused, if you wanted to go back, you can actually just go and click on any item and it will take you back to that particular item. So you want to be able to click on those items. You might also find occasionally you accidentally click on this again as well, which I've done many times already. As the people that are on this, those people that are on this training course now who are members of my club know, I then have to scramble to say that's not the end of the meeting, don't go anywhere yet. So just looking at this notice board, what makes it attractive, in my opinion, and it is only my opinion, is there's lots of things going on this notice board which on the surface you wouldn't really think of to make it look like a notice board. If you look at the logo, the Rotary logo in the middle, you may or may not have noticed, but it has a drop shadow on it. It just gives that 3D image. When you start, when I've seen people that have taken on this notice board and they start adding items to it themselves, and they don't put the shadows, every one of these items has got a drop shadow that you have to add. It just brings that 3D image to the notice board. Every one of the items has got this little pin in the corner, again with a different drop shadow on it. You know, this is the attention to detail that means that this notice board really comes alive and is usable. Okay, so let me take you behind the scenes. Hang on. I will need to just share my desktop again. Hold on one second. There we go. So let me just take you behind the scenes so everybody can see my PowerPoint, I take it. Somebody say yes who's not muted, please.
Yes.
Good, thank you. Okay, so looking behind the scenes, let's just take a ride down the left-hand side, which is all of the PowerPoint pages as you would normally see them. The first one is the notice board. And then each of them, as you go down, are the individual elements that you just saw. And each one sits on its own page. So in itself, I guess if you wanted to, you know, if you didn't want the notice board, I guess you could play from here. No, you can't. I can't do that, not from there. You could play from here and you could just go through these one at a time, you know, but that's not really using the notice board and not the zoom in, zoom out interaction that you get. So let's just go back to the notice board. Each one of these items, as I said, is an individual item. You can firstly, put these wherever it suits you. As I said, I leave this top right-hand section blank now because I want to use that section. I have seen, I mean, you can pick up any one of these items. These pins, for example, I could pick up a pin and I could move it around, right? I mean, that's kind of what I'm doing. I can pick up this weekly and I can move that piece around and I can put it wherever I want. You'll have to get familiar with layers in PowerPoint, making sure that the pin's on top of the item that's there. A lot of that's just by doing a double click or a right click on each item. And as I say, you want to have these shadows that makes it 3D. So that's all just, you know, the look and feel of it. And it's not really the mechanics that's going behind it, which is the clever stuff. The order that you want to have these in is the order that you go through them. What you don't want to be doing is jumping from our pledge allegiance to the flag, followed by happy birthday, back to the flag, into our weekly announcements, off to, you just want it to run smoothly. And if you get it prepared in advance of the meeting, and you've run through it a few times on your own before the meeting, you'll get to the point where you're comfortable that this will just work for you as you go through the meeting. Now you can relax into it and you can enjoy your meeting. I always have a page of notes as well that I run beside this, because again, trying to run this and Zoom and look at your notes on the screen at the same time is just too many things going on, and it's very difficult. Okay, so what makes this go from here, this flag, let's just pick the flag for example, what makes it go from like clicking on this flag to opening this page, and then when we click it again, going back to here in the process of the meeting? And that is this little item here. If I go up to the top of the page, now we're going to get, this is going to be some tech training here. So if you don't get it all first time, don't be too concerned. Tracy's going to be sharing this meeting out to you. You can always do a rerun. You can do a recap. The one thing I have said to Daryl, and I will apologize for this in advance, is that I will not be able to give one-on-one tech support for anybody who loses their PIN or doesn't know how to add things, or if you want to throw them into a pot, I'd be happy to answer them occasionally or go back and do some more training. I just don't have the bandwidth to do one-on-one training. This is now already out with multiple clubs in the district. It's also out up north in a club where somebody came to visit us. We've also got Bob on the line today, who has been taking it out to California, and Chris Wells has asked for a copy of this and is now promoting it around Rotary clubs in the UK. So I don't have that bandwidth, so apologies for that. If we go to insert, one of the things which I didn't even know was here, and frankly, I don't know how long it's been a part of PowerPoint, is this item called Zoom. And this is the one that makes all the magic happen of being able to click and go in and come out of a particular item. Each one of these items was created as a Zoom item. So let's say I didn't have the flag and I wanted to put the flag over here that was going to zoom in. What I do is I click the Zoom button, and what you would do if you wanted to add this flag in, the first thing I would do is I would add a new slide into here. So like you just would for any new item. Because I've selected this as a background, that will automatically come in. I could then insert a picture. I will, okay, let's just do it. I'll insert a picture from my computer, and I will pick, that is the same one. I don't want to do the same one. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. So let's say this one, which is a terrible one, by the way. Please excuse the fact that there's not the right number of stars. I won't be using this one in the future, but let's just pick this one. So we insert that, and now we have and this is a GIF. That's why it's, that's why it's fluttering, is that I pick it up as a GIF, which is a nice thing to do. My wife tells me it's a GIF, but I think a GIF or a GIF, who cares? So I've just now inserted a brand new slide here. If I go back to my main page and I go to insert and zoom and slide zoom, I can now pick that page and insert it, and it brings it in and it drops it in to my notice board. Now, if I just put it over to the side, if I now just went in, it would kind of work. If I now go in, see it appears here, but it looks pretty awful. It's sitting over the top of stuff. It's underneath the picture. But if I click on it, it will take you to it. But then I click on it again. Oh, and I've gone somewhere else. This isn't working, right? This is not how it should be. So what I need to now do is I need to go in here and do a few things to this image to make it work. So the first thing I'm going to do is, if I click on the image now, because it's a Zoom image, I now have this option in my toolbar. If I click somewhere else, that option goes, click back on the image, Zoom Tools arrives. If I click on Zoom Tools, I'm now looking specifically at the Zoom Tools for this item. See the wood background that I had on this image on the left now appears as part of the image. I don't want that. So I click on Zoom Background and that image disappears. Now I'm just looking at the graphic that I want to appear. The second thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it at a jaunty little angle because I want it to be nice when it sits over here, let's say. The next thing I'm going to do is I want to go to Zoom Effects and Shadows, because without a shadow on it, it's not going to really cut the mustard. And this is the drop shadow I use, which is a bottom right. Does a shadow that goes to the bottom and to the right of the image. So I drop a shadow onto it. And you might be a little disappointed with said shadow. Let me make some room here. Look, let's just take a couple of these off and let me make some room and put it over here. So a bit disappointing, the shadow on that one. If I click on it again and I go to Zoom Effects and hover over shadows and go down to the shadow options, what I do is I increase the distance of the shadow to 20 point, and I increase the blur of the shadow to about 12 or 13, 14 point. And now can you see the shadow on the item is now about in keeping with the rest of it. It's beginning to look 3D. Let's grab this pin and put it on top. Oh, hang on, pin didn't go on top, pin went behind. Now I can't get to it. So let's just send back, send backwards. Now you just got layers to understand here, and now we can, the pin still isn't there. So actually I'll bring the pin to the front and then drop the pin on the image. I've got a spare pin there from somewhere. Okay, so that now is an item that's on our board. So that will work, right? I mean, that should work now. So let's try it. Let's go to our slideshow and play. And now I have this flag, which I click on. And sure enough, with the pin on it, it starts to flutter. Now we can get somebody to pledge allegiance to a rather unusual flag, sorry. But now here's the problem. When I click on it again, I've moved on to another slide. In fact, what's actually happened is I've dropped out of the notice board entirely, and now nothing's happening as it should happen. I'm never getting back to the slide, to the notice board. So there's one last thing I need to do on this item, and that is I go to the Zoom Tools again. In the top window on the left-hand side, do you see it says Return to Zoom? What that's going to do is say, next time you click it, take me back to where you started. So now in here, if I go back and I do the play from start again, now I click on the flag, it takes me in, we pledge our allegiance to our strange flag, and I click again and it takes me back out to the notice board. I can do it as many times as I want now. I click in and I click out, and it will just keep coming in and out of the notice board. So two more things I want to show you here. Now you can go, as Tracy has been suggesting a lot here, you can go in, the worldwide interweb is full of fun stuff that you can go and grab and use and try. And, you know, all of these images, all I've done. And frankly, I agree with Tracy, which is you can't go and grab images just straight off the internet and start using them without some repercussions. But equally, this presentation is only being used in my club. I don't see any of my club members having a problem with some of the images. All I've done is just picked up each one of these and we just use them. And there's some fun stuff, you know, you can go and find, just go to Google Images and just type in Happy Bucks and see what turns up and just use it. I put it in here, I drop a shadow around it, turn it into a jaunty little angle, and off we go. A couple of last things on this. One is if, well, I didn't mean to do that. One is if we look at this history, this day in history, I zoom in, but as I said, I've now got a nested zoom within the zoom. So now we go to this day in history. Annie in our club starts telling everybody what this day in history was. And in this week, it was Martin Luther King giving his notorious speech. And while she's presenting it, we click on the Rotary logo. And yes, I know it's the wrong Rotary logo. Sorry, Tracy. We click on the Rotary logo and open the picture. And click on it again, and it retracts back, and click on the page again, and it's gone. So you can nest in. You could even have one of these items. You click on it to go into it, and it opens a whole nother notice board section that goes, you know, that you then click on each image one at a time and then come back to the main section. That would be pretty easy to do. One last thing, because I don't want to give you too much on this to blow you away on it. One last thing on this is that the image that you have on this front side does not necessarily need to be the image that you go to. A good example would be, if you look at this flag that I've got here, when I'm actually in my slideshow mode, when I click on it, that's not the flag that I clicked on. These ones actually look very similar, so that's difficult to tell. So let me just show you. If I change this picture, let me just try and find my image for you. Media resources, maybe. Let's just say, I wanted to make it more fun for you than one of the ones we've already done. Meeting presentations. Yeah, let's say we want to put this one in here. Picture of the Queen, let's do that one. So instead of that picture, I've actually put in a picture of the Queen. Now, when I go in and do the slideshow, now it's a bit of a surprise, because what they're expecting is the stars and stripes, and what they get is a picture of the Queen. So that's quite fun as well. You can actually change the image. Now, let me just show you how you do that. Again, go to the item. Now, ordinarily, like this one was, the image will be what was on the actual slide. If I go to this one, I go to my zoom tools, again, over on the left-hand side, I got change image. So let's just do it on this one, actually. This one that we created. I can now do a change image. I pick some other image, doesn't matter what it is. And now it changes the image. But what it didn't do is change what happens when I click on the image. So again, if I go to my, my slideshow and I do play, when it comes to this one, I click on the image and I get something different. So that's quite fun too. In my first meeting as club president, I hid underneath the Stars and Stripes. I hid the Union Jack, and then tricked one of our ex-military members to pledge allegiance to the wrong flag, which obviously he didn't, but there we go. And then at the end, I come back, and I can go to the meeting, and at the end of the meeting, I ring the bell. So that's it, guys. That's kind of what we do, and that's how to edit some of that stuff. You probably may want to go back and have another look at it sometime and see what you find. But that's kind of how I program it, how I develop it. Most of what's in there you'll be able to steal from me anyway, and just have a shuffle round. And then the last thing I do on that is that business card looking thing for our speaker for the day. I just edit that I ask them to send me a photo of themselves, and I put the details in there so that it's nice for their picture and their information to be on the notice board. So there you go. That's what I've got for you. Hope that can be of some use to you. Hope you might be able to make some use of it. Happy to answer any questions if anybody's got any. Is this the point where I realize I wasn't online all this time and I've just done it for nothing?
Richard, there is a a question from Diana from Siesta Key Club.
Oh yeah, how can I change the background?
Yes.
Sure. It is just a background. It's a standard PowerPoint background change. I can go in and show you. Sorry, hang on. I'm going to have to. Just bear with me 1 second. So if I go to here, I have to remember now. If you just go onto an empty space in the background and right click, double click, whatever your computer does, I'm on a Mac, so it's a two-finger click, and do format background, you'll get a background on the left-hand side option. So if you had a different image, in this one, I'm using a picture or texture fill, and then you just insert it. And I grabbed this wooden notice board from the internet and just use that. But for example, if you wanted to go to a gradient fill, then you can, or a solid fill. I've probably really messed things up because I probably haven't got my particular thing in here now. But you could do whatever you wanted in terms of background from here. Now, interestingly, I'm not sure what would happen here now. Yeah, it keeps the background for those. Okay, that's good. So it's going to use particularly, so this one is still sitting on that wooden background, but remember we said to ignore the background in the zoom tools. Do you remember that? So what that means is it's going to adopt the background from this one now. Anybody else got any questions on it?
Richard, just to clarify, for any club which is interested, you're happy to send them the base PowerPoint, and then they can change it accordingly. Yeah,
I'm absolutely happy to share it out with anybody and everybody. If you get good use out of it, I'm a happy bunny.
Perfect.
And also put it on the district image webpage in the resource section. You can put PowerPoints in there, so I can put it in there.
Awesome. So have I sent it to you, Tracy?
I have the one that you sent from the summit.
Okay. So again, with this, just go have fun with it. You know, I mean, I've done all sorts of things. I just love going and trying to think up new ideas. The little bell on it, it was one of the ideas I had at one point. I must admit, I might want to put a bell up in the corner where I hit the bell and it rings, because I do occasionally hit the middle of the screen forgetting that I'm going to ring the bell. But yeah, things like that. You could, the one I showed at the previous meeting had video embedded. You can embed videos, and then again, you don't have to do anything. You just press the forward arrow. The only thing to be careful with video is on my machine, it has a checkbox before I start playing before I start showing the slideshow that says enable media. And I have to check that box if there's video, otherwise it won't play it. So just be a bit aware of that one. And that may not be on all of your machines or all of your versions of PowerPoint. But when I first started doing this, PowerPoint's Zoom, which I bet they're wishing they'd changed the name of it now, seeing as Zoom got so popular. But PowerPoint's Zoom was not on Apple Mac. It was only on PC, but it is now on Apple Mac. So regardless of which one you're using, you'll be able to get it. It's a standard thing. It's not a plugin. It's not an install. If you go and have a look, if you've got a latest version of Zoom, if you've got a latest version of PowerPoint, it'll be in there.
If people want to get in touch with you, for you to send it to them, how should they contact you?
I think Tracy said we're going to put it up on DACDB. Mm-hmm. And make it available that way. It's probably the best way. Equally, if anybody sends me an email, it's rotaryrichardsgreen@gmail.com. Then I'm happy to just send it on the PowerPoint to you. I'll send you one without a video because it'll be a smaller. And in terms of video, you're just gonna link to either, and you'll either link to Vimeo or link to YouTube. Put your video up there. and link to it. The other thing I'm doing, by the way, as well on this, just so you're aware, a couple of other things outside of the presentation. Number one is when everybody turns up for our meeting starts at 7:30. I encourage people to turn up at 7 o'clock for fellowship. One of the things I hate about Zoom is you get 50 people in a room and only one person can talk at a time and everybody listens to them. It's so unnatural. So I set up 10 breakout rooms, and as people arrive, I put people into breakout rooms with like maybe 3, 4, or 5 people in each breakout room. And it's like sitting around breakfast tables and chatting for the half an hour that leads up to the meeting starting. And then just a minute before the meeting starts, I click close the rooms, and automatically over the next 60 seconds, everybody returns to the main meeting and off we go. And people love that. They absolutely love it. And it's like power game for me because I can put people with people that I want to eat breakfast. In fact, one of our members turned up the last week. One of our members turned up, and because he had some technical problems, he came to our meeting with his computer for video, but his iPad for audio. So he was actually on our meeting twice. So I put the two of them in different breakout rooms. So that's another thing to do. That's a really good one. Dropping the share so that you've got this bigger image of somebody presenting during Happy Bucks and stuff is really good. And then the other thing that I'm doing as well is I had a few comments from people saying, you know, that I like Zoom, but the thing that really makes me feel sad is at the end of a meeting, which we're going to get to here in a minute, by the way, at the end of a meeting, when the meeting finishes and we do the 4-way test and ring the bell, suddenly I'm sitting all alone in my house again, instead of surrounded by all my friends. So I thought, well, what's a more natural ending to a meeting? We ring the bell and people hang about at the meeting, don't they, and chat for a while. So I leave them, I close the meeting at 8:30 and I leave the meeting open for another 10 minutes. And normally the speaker will stay on as well, and people just get to ask more questions or have a chat, and it just becomes a really relaxed way of winding down the meeting. So there are a few things, and lots of caffeine. Don't forget, lots of caffeine.
Richard, thank you so much for giving your time this morning. That was fabulous. I love that template. I think it just makes everything look so professional, and you know, the flexibility you've got within it, you know, and how you showed us to change things was fantastic. So I learned a lot from that. I'm sure everybody else did. So, you know, really appreciate you showing that. Now, there was a lot to obviously take in, and this is being recorded. So I would definitely urge you to look back on it once the video is launched, and obviously pick up the tips. If you get stuck on anything, just go to the appropriate part in the video and look at the tips that are in there from that point. So Tracy, do you have anything else that you want to get across to anybody?
The only thing I would say with Richard's PowerPoint is save a copy in case you screw it up the first time. I did that a couple times, but it's once you get the hang of changing things, it will come second nature to you.
Okay,
but
that's great.
I'm here to help. We're all here to help. I know Kathy is. I see Kathy's on the line, and Christy, we're here to help, and we're here to spread the word of Rotary.
Tracy, would it be possible maybe to clip out just the training section from this presentation and put it somewhere where it's available alongside the PowerPoint so that whoever picks it up can get both?
Yes, I can edit the training video and put it.
I'll be doing it in 2 sections.
Oh, perfect.
Okay, so does anybody else have anything they want to ask or suggest? Or does anybody want to say anything? Oh, you're a good crowd. I like this.